What has your organization done to support the implementation of the ASEAN Enabling Masterplan 2025?
My organization, ADF, has been trying our very best to collaborate with the IFES and its partner agenda to raise funds, to get funding, to see how we can help our member organizations within the 10 ASEAN countries to look into how we can be a force for good to advance the cause of the Enabling Master Plan.
I have been advocating it to DPOs and government organizations. We have already given or presented the master plan to all the members of the National Council for Social Development and also members of the National Council for Persons with Disabilities. Our Deputy Prime Minister, who is also the Minister of Women, Family and Community Development, Yang Amat Berhormat Dr. Wan Azizah, mentioned that the ASEAN Enabling Master Plan will be one of the 3 international instruments that Malaysia will abide in formulation of national policies.
We gave the talk shows on TV for the master plan, and the second, we organized the workshop for dissemination and direction of people and for people with disability on a master plan.
My organization has been reported to the Ministry of Social Welfare and the National Committee on the Rights of People with Disability in Myanmar. So now the ASEAN Master Plan is incorporated in the Myanmar National Strategic Plan for the Rights of Persons with Disability.
Merely promote the master plan among our staff, and we also involve and promote the master plan by joining the workshop on developing and strategic plan for persons with disability in Myanmar and harmonization with master plan, which is conducted by Ministry of Social Welfare, Relief and Resettlement on 23rd January 2019.
For the ASEAN Enabling Master Plan, our organization already print out the Lao version document to spread to all of the DPO in Lao, and in the future we plan to do the awareness raising, because we have the great training. So whenever we have the disability right and equality training, so we bring the ASEAN Enabling Master Plan in Lao version to introduce to our society.
We have many events to contribute to from government, private sector, and also relevant stakeholder. We want to make sure all the stakeholders who are well understand about ASEAN Master Plan. More of that, we also have produced some video clip.
We have conducted a policy platform workshop with 15 DPOs that the result is a policy platform document. Policy platform document is an advocacy tool for government and political party, media, and university that to ensure how to implement the ASEAN Enabling Master Plan in Indonesia. And secondly, we conducted the advocacy awareness training for internal members, the Indonesian People Disability Organization staff. That's our objective is to build the advocacy knowledge to other staff in Indonesian People Organization for ASEAN Enabling Master Plan, and to share how we can do with ASEAN Enabling Master Plan, and how the ASEAN Enabling Master Plan beneficial beneficially for people with disabilities organization in Indonesia. And the thirdly, we have a policy brief workshop with government of Indonesia to know how the regulation about legal identities.
We just make the ASEAN Enabling Masterplan to in accessible format for all. Like we have Braille, we produce Braille version, we produce the text plain version, and also produce the audio books version, and we send the master plan to organizations, especially DPOs. This is the thing that we done to empower everyone to know what is the ASEAN Enabling Master Plan.
What activities is your organization planning to do to promote the implementation of the master plan in your country as well as in the region?
The main plan is focused on the implementation of the UNCRPD and the Sustainable Development Goals, utilizing the ASEAN Enabling Master Plan. That could be considered as a movement. That may go on until everything or every point in the master plan is set into motion.
In the future, as we are planning to promote the harmonization of the Vietnamese disability law with the CRPD and the master plan.
Merely have a plan to build the capacities of disabled people organization to strengthen the future advocacy strategies of persons with disability and to raise awareness of the master plan among government officials, civil society organization, and political institution and media. And Mili will also analyze 2008 constitutions of Myanmar and harmonize it with the ASEAN Enabling Master Plan, develop the policy platform documents and formulate advocacy strategy and raise the awareness of Enabling Master Plan to community.
We think that fund is very important to all of Cambodian people to well understand about the ASEAN Master Plan. We have planned to conduct for 25 DPO in the rural area about training or trainer on the advocacy related to ASEAN Master Plan. After the trainings, DPO themselves, they will contribute those knowledge and capacity to have a meeting and advocate with the authorities and to find out what the gap of each area linked with the 3 pillars of ASEAN Master Plan.
We will do public dialogue, and the public dialogue participation, we will invite government, political parties, universities, and media. That we want the result of public dialogues is there is a policy brief and signing commitment for all of the participants who attending the public dialogue. And secondly, we will conduct movie competition for senior high school student and university student to know how the understanding of university student and senior high school student about the rights of persons with disability, especially in ASEAN Enabling Masterplan. So the term of movie competition is about inclusive disability in ASEAN members country.
We will have the conference in September this year to we try to empower or encourage like every sector, especially private sector and public sector and political parties to implement the ASEAN Master Plan to their policy.
What recommendation do you have for ASEAN member states to implement the master plan at the national level?
We do not believe that in a one-size-fits-all solution for all ASEAN member states. So we would encourage each ASEAN member state to come up with their own action plan that is unique to the needs of persons with disabilities within their countries. For example, in Singapore, while we are very strong in accessibility and transportation for all within Singapore, we are also now trying to bring in the concept of smart cities so that more persons with disabilities can be part of an inclusive Singapore through artificial intelligence, through the use of ICT.
Informed all concerned that we should try our best to implement this master plan. As for our other coalition partners in ASEAN, I would like to encourage them to work together with CSO, DPOs and also the government. It is very important to advocate to the government because they are the one who will be responsible to implement this master plan. And if they agree to accept the master plan, that will be a very good start for the successful implementation.
I make the suggestions to the government to work together with the DPOs and to encourage all the stakeholders to work with the DPOs and the persons with disabilities.
The ASEAN member states should have some small grant or fund to each country to use with implementation the enabling master plan.
You will be taking part in the workshop on strengthening the coordination of two regional DPO networks, Agenda and ADF. How does your organization, as a member of the Agenda or ADF network, plan to collaborate or coordinate with ADF or Agenda?
The partnership
The partnership
between
ADF and Agenda
is an imperative.
So
what we should only do is to continue the effort of collaboration, especially
in the sharing of experiences
and in the development
of DPOs
in each of the 10 countries. The focus now
is to strengthen the relationship,
to look out for more avenues where we could improve the sharing of experiences.
A good relationship
can only grow when
communication is open
and the ideas of each party
are seriously looked upon, considered, deliberated,
and as much as possible, the goal must be to develop consensus.
we recommend the ADF and Asian have a plan to organize the research and exchange and sharing and learning the experience among ASEAN countries to implementation master plan and calls for funding for the implementation of our plan for master plan.
Distinguished guests and participants. I'm Tolhas Damanik, the Disability Rights Advisor of Agenda General Election Network for Disability Access, as your host for today's event. We are very proud to welcome you to the Agenda Site Global Disability Summit site event today with the topic of using good practices to enhance OPD's advocacy. So thank you very much for your patience to register and also to wait for this event. And now we gathered together to this very wonderful event to discuss a topic related to the disability right and advocacy, especially in ASEAN. So just give you a little bit of housekeeping announcement for today. So today we are going to have the event with the first opening, and then second will be the town hall, the discussion with the panelists. There will be 3 panelists here today with us, and we will continue with the Zoom poll. So to enable us to just to warm up our mind and to just relax from the discussion before we jump to the Q&A session. And after the Zoom poll, there will be a photo session. So we really love to see face of all of you and take picture together. And lastly, or not lastly, but I think this is the important part of this discussion, the Q&A session, where all of you can raise your question or comment even through the Q&A box, or even raise your hand and make your voice directly, or speak directly to the panelists. And lastly, the closing. Again, welcome all of you to the site event organized by the General Election Network for Disability Access through the support from the Department of Foreign Affairs and Trade, the Australian government, and the Department of Democracy, Human Rights and Labor, the US government. So just to give you a little bit information about Agenda. Agenda is a General Election Network for Disability Access. This is a creative partnership and advocacy network of organization of persons with disabilities and civil election-focused civil society organization. So through over the past decade, Agenda has built the capacity of OPDs, in particularly through the training and workshop, and also the public awareness raising activities. These all activities or efforts have been created to ensure that all OPDs can enhance their capacity in conducting the advocacy, but also to inform the government official to get their understanding of the importance of having or involve the capacity of person with disability when they need to design or implement the inclusive development in the region as well as in at the country level. So today's discussion will be focused on understanding challenges and good practices of the capacity building that has been done by Agenda and how the capacity building activities has been impacted to the work of the effort of OPDs in conducting their advocacy, especially to the implementation of one very powerful document called ASEAN Enabling Masterplan 2025, mainstreaming the right of person with disability in the ASEAN community. This is something, this information, I think this is very important for you. When you later on joining the Zoom poll, there will be a question about the ASEAN Enabling Master Plan. So that's why I think it is important for me just to give you a hint. But what is ASEAN Enabling Master Plan 2025, mainstreaming the right of person with disability? In 2018, this is very important. The 10 ASEAN countries, the 10 ASEAN leaders adopted the document called ASEAN Enabling Master Plan 2025 as to mark the commitment of the ASEAN to the inclusive community and also the mainstreaming of the right of person with disabilities. ASEAN Enabling Master Plan 2025 consists of 76 priority action points. So it's a lot. 76 priority action point just to give ideas to the ASEAN sectoral bodies and the government how they can mainstream the disability right into their program, activities, and plan, and also how they can monitor their program and activities, whether it's already involved person with disability or not. So 2018 to 2025, and this year will be the midterm review of the implementation of the ASEAN Enabling Master Plan. So that's why Agenda and with also the OPD network join together to advocate for the ASEAN Enabling Master Plan 2025, mainstreaming the right of person with disability. And one of the effort that has been conducted, I think more and more is the capacity building activities, so that all OPDs, all organizations of person with disability can have their capacity and they can work together with the government to achieve the success of the implementation of the ASEAN Enabling Master Plan and also the UN Convention on the Right of Person with Disability. I think this is kind of a long information, but this is but I think this is important for us just to understand the context of this discussion. Okay, moving on to the session itself. Let me start with introducing the very distinguished panelists for today. I will start from introducing Mr. Paul Wong Yun Long. He is the Executive Director of the National NCBM, National Council of the Blind of Malaysia. So NCBM found in 1986, bringing together 5 organizations to ensure that all organizations can provide sufficient services for blind person so they can enjoy their life whatever they are. So this organization based in Malaysia. So very welcome, Pak Wong, to this event, Mr. Wong. The second panelist will be Miss Jennifer. So Miss Jennifer is the woman disability advocate from Call Foundation. Call Foundation based in the Philippines. So Call Foundation also the non-government organization or organization of person with disability working for the disability for the right of person with blind, visual impairment, or low vision. So especially in with the view to enhance their access to the socio-economic opportunities. So welcome Ms. Jen to this event. And the third panels will be Mr. P.T. Lim. He's the chairman of the ASEAN Disability Forum. So ASEAN Disability Forum is a regional organization of persons with disability comprised of several organizations that become the representative in all 10 ASEAN countries. So ADF has their own representative in each country in ASEAN. So ADF also an accredited organization to the ASEAN. So this is very powerful. And the vision of ADF is to bring the voice of person with disability in the region. So and through work collaboratively with the ASEAN officials and also the government. So we welcome Pak Lim, Mr. Lim Puetiak to this event, and later on, I think each of them will also introduce their organization during our discussion. Okay, so let me start with the discussion. I will invite our distinguished panelists to come. So hello, good evening, Mr. Wong.
Yeah, good evening, Pak Tuhas.
Okay,
good evening.
Glad to hear your voice, and very good evening to Miss Jen, Miss Jennifer.
Hi everyone, good evening.
Okay, and lastly, very good evening to Mr. Lin.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for joining us in this session.
Okay, so thank you very much for three of you that already agree to spend your time together with all participants of this event. Okay, so since our discussion for today will be surrounding the capacity building activities that you as an individual organization already are participated during this I think if I'm not mistaken since 2016 or so. So let me start with Miss Jen. Can you explain what of some of the impact of the capacity building activities that has been conducted by Agenda? How it is impacted how it has been enhancing the capacity of your organization? Go ahead, Ms. Jen.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Sir Tolhas. Since Call Foundation has been actively participating in the IFS series of trainings, including those that related to strategic communication and digital advocacy, particularly through the utilization of social media channels, Call was able to establish some public contests, namely poster making contests, talent contest, infographic contest, and article writing contest. These activities has encouraged almost more than 211 participants, and they meaningfully really participate with the event. Actually, it's not just really a contest, but based on our communication or interview with them, they really they learned something which is more deeper about the persons with disabilities. What are their battle cries, what are their challenges, and most especially how to really mainstream their rights in the community. Yeah, that's all.
So yeah, Miss Jen, can you explain to us what are some changes that you can see or you can feel after participating in Agenda training?
Actually, the training that we had experienced in Agenda was very timely when at the onset of the pandemic. You know, usually in 2019 we had conducted face-to-face trainings, capacity building activities, but then in 2020 we all knew that we cannot really conduct face-to-face activities, so we maximize the skill that we have learned from the capacity building activities done by Agenda. So we really it's good that we have learned how to use the online platforms, and then at the same time using the social media, because at the onset of COVID-19, people was really focused on the Facebook pages and the other social media platform, and we took advantage of it. And it was really a big change, quite challenging, but really the impact was so high, and so many people reach even those people in the grassroots for as long as there is an internet. So I think the digital advocacy that we have learned from our partners, IFS Agenda, was really a great help, very timely at the onset of pandemic.
Okay, thank you for Ms. Chen. I will come back to you later, yeah. So, okay, so how about the NCBM, Pak Wong? How the capacity building activities has been strengthening your advocacy? Go ahead, Pak Wong.
Thank you, Pak Tolhas. As probably most of you might be aware that the ASEAN Enabling Masterplan was adopted by all ASEAN head of states in 2018. So prior to that, Agenda, together with IFS, conducted a lot of advocacy training to strengthen our capacity to be able to advocate, to improve our advocacy activities. So from 2018, we conducted several workshops and seminars, and one important one was we conducted a policy platform workshop to identify what are the priority areas that person with disabilities in Malaysia wants to advocate for. And we managed to have three, which are participating in decision making, accessibility, and also education. So we actually send the document to all government stakeholders. And in 2019, as people in Agenda already know, during a meeting with our Deputy Prime Minister at that time, she actually mentioned that the ASEAN Enabling Masterplan will be one of three international instruments which Malaysia will be committed to. And when we conduct, when the government formulate policies, they will refer to the master plan as one of the three international commitments besides the CRPD and the Incheon strategy. Moving forward, we all know that from 2020, we all were struck by the COVID-19 pandemic, and we were all it never happened before in our lifetime, is it? So we are just wondering what to do and how to, how to get the government interested in providing assistance to person with disabilities, because everybody is suffering, and everybody wants to be prioritized, and everybody's needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
So we were just, I was just thinking and wondering, and then we have the master plan. Why don't we use the master plan, and get some insights from the idea master plan? As Pak Tol has mentioned, there are 76 action points. So many action points relates to what the government can do to help us, like for example, in healthcare, in accessibility, in providing access to information, and these are all very important issues during pandemic,
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wong. So moving on to Mr. Lim, as a regional organization of person with disability, ADF, how the capacity building activities from Agenda has been strengthening your advocacy. Go ahead, Mr. Lim.
I think for us at the ASEAN Disability Forum, one of the main anchor points that we have is that we are able to participate in the various capacity training programs that we have initiated together with Agenda and the ASEAN Secretariat, not only to train the OPDs in the region, but also to include the sectorial bodies within ASEAN. And because of this collaboration and very well managed efforts that we have put in together, we are able to kind of, ADF is kind of able to establish itself as a very as a key partner in building the capacity of the disability sector within ASEAN. And we enjoy this recognition because if you look at the history of the ASEAN Disability Forum, we are one of the, the first and perhaps the only one CSO dealing with disability matters within recognized by ASEAN Secretariat. So we enjoy this very privileged position and give us leverage to be able to go into a lot of advocacy work and collaborative work with all the other sectorial bodies within ASEAN. So we really appreciate this effort. And I think, as mentioned by Pak Wong, our efforts during the last 2 to 3 years were actually shaped by the COVID disaster that was spreading not only in ASEAN but throughout the world, because we have to rethink and retool and look into what new ways in which we can be more innovative and more creative in reaching out and working with OPDs in the region. So I'll pause here for a while and think and add on later on. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lim. Okay, so for the three of you, this is just, I think, just an entertaining question. So from several trainings that already participated by you as an individual and organization, which trainings that has been very interesting for you and how is very impressive for you as an advocate? I will start from Pak Wong, please.
I have no chance to think. I strongly I'm strongly influenced by the training in formulating the policy document. As you can hear from my brief sharing just now, one of the strength or that of NCBM after training receiving training from IFES and Agenda is we are very good in advocating with the government, and we in Malaysia work very well. We listen to the government and the government listen to us.
So Pak Wong, just to give more understanding to the participant, can you describe what kind of training is it, the policy platform?
Okay, so we all know that persons with disabilities have a lot of issues. We have a lot of issues, so it is not possible for any government to solve all our issues at the same time. So in this training, we are trained to prioritize what will be the most important 3 or 4 issues at that particular time. And then using these 3 or 4 issues, how can we summarize them? Government officials have no time to read volumes of documents. How can we summarize them into very brief action point that we want the government to take? And with that, we can easily take this 1 or 2 pages of a document, and then we just can go to government officials and remind them that these are what majority of persons with disability want in this country at this moment of time. Of course, moving on later on, we will have other issues, but for the time being, these are the 3 priorities that we want you to solve.
Okay, so by having those 3 priority and bring it to the government, what's the result, Pak Wong?
I believe we have achieved very good results. As Pali mentioned just now, a lot of our activities are shaped by the COVID-19 pandemic. But we were fortunate in Malaysia that a lot of issues were able to be taken into consideration by the government. For example, at the beginning of the pandemic, we have an issue of information. Blind people don't know what to do. Even simple thing like wearing face mask. We never wear face mask before this. So how can blind people know? And face mask, there is a way. There is the right way. You know, there are two sides of the mask that you need to wear. So how can we explain? So we need audio. We need audio explanation when the video is being shown. So like for people who are deaf, they are sign language interpretation. Persons with disabilities are given priority for vaccination, and I believe most of them are now boosted, getting their booster dose. So I think this is working together with government. We are fortunate that the training happened before the pandemic. Otherwise, I might not be able to work so effectively with government officials without the skills and the knowledge that I got during the training. You know?
Thank you, Mr. Wong. So I will move to Ms. Jennifer. The same question with Mr. Wong. From several trainings that you already participated as individual and organization, which trainings that really benefited to you, Ms. Jen?
Yeah. Hi. Actually, all the trainings that IFES Agenda was able to share for the organizations of persons with disabilities were really great and advantageous and great help to the organization, like the training on building the advocacy and communication strategy. We also had the training on intersectionality, the policy platform workshop, and even the building coalition. So for me, the one that I got really interested and is about the digital advocacy, because a decade ago, I'm really an internet savvy. I really love to use computer, browse the internet. With the help of, with that minimal skill that I had, I was able to use it for advocacy. And then when I was able to, or I had given a chance to join the training on digital advocacy, well, I think my skill was enhanced and developed in a more innovative way. And now I'm using this as an individual, as a disability rights advocate, and also sharing my skill to the organizations, not only for Call Foundation, but at the same time to those organizations who are also in need and interested in that training. So in that way as well, the digital advocacy had also influenced our government officials, because here in the Philippines, even our government really maximize the social media platforms or the online platforms in sharing information, important information, particularly in this time of pandemic. They really maximize the social media or the online platforms. And so it was very high time as well to really get their attention through the social media platforms. Actually, we just recently had the awareness campaign in December in partnership with the ASEAN Disability Forum, of course, the IPES and Agenda, and it was very successful. We are only expecting a number of people, and including the government officials, but we are truly overwhelmed with the result because of using the social media platform, advertising it, promoting it online, and we even got a double number of participants. So I think the digital advocacy really helps the organization in reaching the government, and so they can really hear our voice even in this high time of pandemic that we cannot go to their office, but through internet and the social media, we can still connect with them. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Jennifer. And then move to you, Mr. Lim. The same question. So how
I think as a regional organizations, we have our own unique challenges as well, because we are dealing at things more on a panoramic perspective, because we are dealing with 10 different countries within ASEAN, each with its own level of development, which is its own level of challenges like language, and especially now during the COVID pandemic, when digitization is perhaps the only way out where we can continue to communicate with one another. There are also different challenges in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of the access to information, as well as all these things. So at ADF, we have to pitch our training, perhaps more at a like maybe a midstream level, so that those who can benefit from it, would definitely work towards achieving those desired outcomes. And perhaps those who are a little more endowed and blessed countries can perhaps share their experiences on best practices and how they can do best. Because I don't think in any situation that we're facing now, there's no one size fit all answer for everybody. So there are two or three things which strike me when we talk about capability building during this the last 2-3 years, especially during the COVID pandemic. One, because a lot of the OPDs, because of their cultural as well as the government situation in the country, often have difficulties dealing with officials, right? Especially when you deal with the government officials or people who are higher ups, people who are perhaps providing the money, people who are perhaps running the policy, national policy on disability issues. So one particular training session that strikes out in the back of my mind very boldly is how can we communicate with officials, with government officials. In other words, it's more like a up, looking up type of approach. So we give them some simple, very simple tips on how we can get into their agenda, speak their language, and then move from there to offer some viable solutions. Just like Pak Wong was saying earlier about how both his organization provides feedback to the Malaysian government, and at the same time the Malaysian government also listens to the inputs and the feedback from the various OPDs in the country. So we felt that we need to give the leaders of the OPDs in ASEAN a little bit of a skill set into how they can approach their government officials and communicate with them effectively in introducing alternative views, or maybe advocate for specific rights of a person with disability. It's a very practical approach rather than a theoretical approach, because that's what we need, right? I mean, all of us have varied experiences and all these things. So it really helps to be able to lock down into the techniques and the skills in which we can talk to higher government officials. So that's one example of how we can really give some very practical approach on approaching government officials, especially when we are addressing certain specific issues concerning people with disabilities in the countries that they come from. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Lim. Actually, you answered my next question with regards. Yeah, but it comes to my mind after hearing the sharing from all of you. My next question would be what kind of considering many challenges that now experiencing by an OPDs when conducting advocacy to the government, and also the need for establishing collaboration with other organizations, whether it's OPDs or even the CSOs. In your opinion, what kind of skill or knowledge that should be enhanced by OPDs through the capacity building activities? How about from you, Mr. Wong?
I believe OPDs or leaders or in OPDs need to have networking skills. We need to network with OPDs and also with CSOs, build a good coalition, and then when we have a strong coalition consisting of not only OPDs but other CSOs, because there are a lot of issues that we face are also faced by other groups, like for example minority groups or what do you call it, women and girls. So we need to work together with them, have good networking, collaborate with them, and when we go and speak to government officials, they will be more open to listen to us, because we are now not only a small OPD, but we have actually networked with other organizations. Just give you an example. National Council for the Blind Malaysia is an organization, what do you call it, providing for persons who are blind. But we, with funding from IFS Agenda, we expanded our, what do you call it, our target, not only for the blind, but also to other disability groups. So we widen our scope, and then when we widen our scope, we will get better coverage.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Wong. We'll move to Miss Jennifer. So, reflecting to the challenges and also the good practices that you have in your country, what will be your recommendation on the skills or knowledge that should be enhanced by the OPDs? Go ahead, Ms. Jennifer.
Yeah, I think the knowledge and skill and attitude, I think let's add attitude to be enhanced with the OPDs. Like for example, they have to be more passionate with what they're doing, like be an inspiration as well, and walk the talk. So when you are advocating, so of course you have to apply it in your life as well. So, and at the same time, in terms of the skill, I think, I mean, yeah, the skill, when you were trained, it is important that you have also to apply it and share it to the other organizations or persons with disabilities. As to the knowledge, it is very important that the members or the leaders of the organizations or persons with disabilities are knowledgeable about, for example, the policies, the disability-related laws, so that when you are going to lobby with the government, you are really equipped. Like, for example, they're going to ask something. We have to make sure that we are really aware about those information. And I think the policy platform workshop is very important as well for us to, we should know what really comes and when in terms of priorities, what are we going, because the persons with disabilities have many concerns. And if you're going to lay down all those things on the table, like sharing it with the government, tendency is they will ignore it. So, or rather than they're going to answer like that, just wait. So if you're going to lobby a specific concern, I think the government would more give attention on it. So I think the OPD members and leaders should really enhance their knowledge, skill, and the important is that really the passion of advocating for the rights of the persons with disabilities. That's all.
Yeah, thank you, Miss Jennifer. And then I will move to Mr. Lim. Mr. Lim, as a regional organization of persons with disability, according to your observation, what will be the key for the OPDs in ASEAN the important thing that should be given to OPDs in ASEAN in order to strengthen their advocacy?
I think the feel at the ground in many of the ASEAN countries that we have a chance of working with is that most governments are willing to listen, right? But they're also willing to listen for a viable solution. And I think most of the times when we go into a very militant approach of advocacy, like protesting and all things, that doesn't solve the problem, because government need to look at how they can implement measures or certain programs that would solve uh, uh, issues at a mass level. All right. Let me share with you, because I was, for the last 40 years I was been engaged in social policy and specifically dealing with disability issues. And for the first 15 years, I was working for the government. Then the next 10 years, I was working for an umbrella body dealing with all the OPDs, or the what we call the non-profit sector in Singapore. And then for another 10 years or so, I was working in specific OPDs that deals directly, providing direct service for people with disabilities. And I always feel that, especially in Singapore, our government is willing to listen. We being resource rich, we're able to provide a solution, the monetary backup to get programs implemented. But I think what government is looking for is how can we solve 80% of the problem with with one certain programs and all these things. So like issues like how do you provide accessibility not only in the built environment but also in the transport system. All right. For Singapore, it's easy to do because we are small and we're able to like do national and approach on it. But if you look at, let's like in Thailand, what they do was they recently, when we had our awareness campaign with our partner in Bangkok, they highlight one specific locality, one specific district in Bangkok where they adopt this approach into how they can provide accessible transport as well as an accessible built environment in that particular locality. And hopefully that will become like a showcase where other communities and other townships can adopt to make it more accessible and more inclusive for people with disabilities. So I think that to me is a very practical approach to the skills that people with these disabilities should have in order to reach out to the government. And I think government, I sense, is actually looking for active partnership and collaboration. What we need to have on our part is very practical solutions, right? Practical solutions, not necessarily a one-size-fits-all solution, but some suggestions and some proposals in which certain issues can be addressed. And I think this is basically a very broad approach, because it is not necessarily applicable for every country in ASEAN that we see, because each country has its own level of emphasis and priority, right? So once you reach certain level, then they will think about other things, the softer side of social development and so on. So if you want me to answer in one very short word, that is offer viable solutions rather than just and saying that what needs to be done, what should be done, but offer the solution so that the government bodies are able to like consider your proposals and work towards implementing them. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Lim. I agree with you that yes, as an OPD, we need to always offer the solution to government and also the stakeholder, and also we need to know how to propose that solution as well. So that's why the capacity building on advocacy, communication strategy, and so on has been really beneficial for the OPDs in achieving their success in advocacy. So I think we need to stop here for a moment. Yeah, thank you very much for the panelists. But please don't go anywhere because we will do some of the relaxing game through the Zoom pool. And I will ask my colleague Tika to lead this Zoom pool. So Tika, over to you now.
Okay, Bang Tolhas, thank you. So I'm going to launch the first question here. I will read the question to you. You can see it to your screen. So the first question is, what is the name of the ASEAN regional instrument that was adopted by the ASEAN leaders in 2018 to strengthen the mainstreaming of the disability rights? I will give about 10 seconds for you guys to answer these questions. There are already 10 persons participated. Yeah. We have 15 participants, and I will end the poll now for the first question. Yep. There are 16 persons answered it right. So the right answer is C, ASEAN Enabling Masterplan 2025. And we will move to the second question. Second question, which IFS training aim to strengthen organizations of persons with disabilities in conducting an inclusive digital advocacy campaign? A, training on the IFS Digital Advocacy Toolkit. B, intersectional coalition building training. Or C, monitoring and evaluation training. We have 10 participants. I will give you five more seconds to answer this. Okay, I will end the poll. Yep. Most of the participants answer it right. So the right answer is A, training on the IFS Digital Advocacy Toolkit. And I will move to the third questions. How many key action points does the ASEAN Enabling Masterplan 2025 have? A, 75 action points. B, 76 action points. Or C, 25 action points. We have different kind of answer for these questions. I will give you 5 more seconds to answer it. Okay, now I'm going to end the poll and see the answer of this question. Yeah, the right answer is B, 76 action points. There are 10 out of 18 participants who answer it right. And we will move to the fourth question. The fourth question is, do you agree that capacity building activities shall be provided for organizations of persons with disabilities to strengthen their advocacy? A, disagree, B, neutral, or C, agree? Yeah, a lot of participants already answered. I will give you 5 more seconds. Okay, I'm going to end the poll. For this question, most of the participants answer agree that capacity building activities shall be provided for organization of persons with disabilities to strengthen their advocacy. Yeah, it is the end of the polling session. Now back to you, Bang Tolhas.
Thank you very much, Tika, for your help. So I hope this Zoom poll can chill up you a little bit, yeah. Okay, so again, with regards to the ASEAN Enabling Master Plan 2025 mainstreaming the right of person with disability, I just want to let you know that agenda now is running the project to raise the awareness of the ASEAN Enabling Master Plan throughout the government and also the stakeholder, and at the same time strengthening the capacity of the OPDs in advocating for the implementation of the ASEAN Enabling Master Plan itself. So those two projects has been sponsored by the DFED and also the DRL. And after this, I will ask all of you to see the videos with regards to ASEAN Enabling Master Plan, just to make you more understanding, have more understanding on what is the ASEAN Enabling Master Plan. And also this is the thing, we want to have the picture with all of the participants. So the committee will ask you to move to the panel. So during the video, please accept please accept the invitation to be moved to the panelists. Yeah. So okay. So before the Q&A session, we will see the video, the short video, and don't forget to also use the opportunity to raise your question. You can type your question through the Q&A box, or you can also raise your hand if you wanna speak directly to the panel, because after this all of you will be assigned to the panel. Yeah. Okay. So I will let the committee now to play the video.
Do you know in ASEAN, over 17 million people struggle with accessing the public facilities every single day? People with issues of sight, mobility, hearing, and intellect still face many barriers in their everyday lives. For persons with disabilities, society still has little solutions for them. Well, that's about to change. The ASEAN Enabling Masterplan 2025 is committed to mainstream the rights of persons with disabilities, ensuring that each individual enjoy their equal rights like the rest of us. With accessible facilities and increased communications, persons with disabilities have more ways to travel out of their homes to discover and connect with their communities. With better systems and new technology, persons with disabilities are empowered to pursue an education, which gives them better prospects in the workforce. And with a stable income, they can take over the steering wheel and have the freedom to make the decisions that matter. So let's change our attitudes and work hand in hand as a people with one vision, one identity, one community to build a better ASEAN. Are you ready to make this change?
So thank you very much for the committee to play this video. So hopefully this will strengthen your knowledge about the ASEAN Enabling Master Plan. See that this document is very powerful, and hopefully by having the OPDs working collaboratively, working together to advocate for this ASEAN Enabling Master Plan, we hope that ASEAN will be more inclusive for persons with disability by 2025. Okay, now photo session. So I will ask who will lead this photo session? I hope
will,
you.
Bang.
Okay, so hopefully you can open your camera and we will see your face now. Okay, go ahead, Anissa.
Okay, everyone. Thank you so much for turning on your video while waiting for others to do so. Please, who are not yet accept to be provided to the panelists to accept. And then we have 2 pages here. Please prepare your best smile. I'll start counting from 1, 2, 3. Cheers. Okay, second page. 1, 2, 3. Cheers. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Anissa. Okay, now we move to the important one, the Q&A session, question and answer. I'm sure that all of you all of you have a question to the panelists. So please feel free to write your question or comments into the Q&A box. Or even if you want to raise the question directly to panelists, you can raise your hand and the committee or Tika, my colleague, will give you opportunities to open your mic and speak. Okay, Tika will help me with reading out loud a question from the Q&A. Do we have a question in the Q&A?
Yeah. Yes, Bang. There are already 2 questions here.
Okay.
From one is from Cafe Intran Pulantran. He asked, are the training or courses available for anyone to audit online? I think that this question is rather for the agenda team. Or Mr. Cafe Intran Pulantran also raised hand. Are we going to?
Yeah, I think we can ask him to raise the question directly.
Okay. Please.
Hello, everyone. This is Kevin. Thank you for the opportunity to raise my question. That question is a very simple question that I would like to direct to the agenda team. But my different question to the panelists, anyone can attempt this, is my view of the ASEAN region is a functioning disability development driver is a bit different from the European Union. Pardon me for my lack of knowledge of those 2 differences, but I can see that European Union may have some kind of, to say, a better way of putting disability-related push towards the member states, like, for example, educational-related inclusivity. So due to this, we can see many products that comes out from the European Union. It may be educational-related products or products that directly or indirectly, services or that directly or indirectly deal with education should be inclusive or accessibly designed, from its grassroots. Do you think in Asia, because we can see many players, such as many technological players are coming out from Asian and also Asia Pacific. So do you think our region or any regional kind of law can let the companies and services to have inclusive approach to be forced or to be inculcated on them? Case at point is Shopee, Grab, and those technologies that are being increasingly coming inside of the life of the disabled persons. But these services are not accessible and the companies do not have accessible culture. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kevin, for the question. I think I will let the three panelists to answer this question because this is related to the context of the countries and the region as well. Yeah, I think let's start from Mr. Wong. Do you have an answer for the question?
Let other have a go first.
Okay. How about from Mr. Lim?
I think this is a very multi-pronged question, and I think if you look at how the EU is developing, just like what the ASEAN community is developing, we are definitely way behind in terms of the infrastructure, in terms of the way in which we want to go. And if you read, the papers and the news that's going on, we have our own priority issues that we are dealing with right now. And I think two of which we are dealing with now is even now the foreign ministers are having their retreat and summit over in Phnom Penh, and they are addressing issues like how about Myanmar and all the recent political instability that's going on there. And I think big global issues like, for example, the South China Sea ownership, and then a more relevant one is, when is Timor-Leste going to join ASEAN? So these are big picture issues which I think are priority issues which the 10 ASEAN countries are working towards. But if you look at how ASEAN Charter has been formed nearly 55 years ago, with this charter and with this different philosophies that underlie it, is definitely quite different from what the EU that you and I know about, And I work quite closely with the European Disability Forum, and I know they have a lot of resources, they have a lot of priorities down there, but I would dare say that within ASEAN, it's only a work in progress. We're beginning to be better aware of the issues that are there. And I think, as our friend mentioned about the e-commerce platforms that are available, Shopee is very popular in Singapore and it's inclusive, but I'm not so sure if that would be true in countries like Myanmar or even Cambodia and all those things. So these are very live issues in which each country has to deal with and push for an inclusion. And I think in our work for the last 3 years on creating greater awareness of the ASEAN Enabling Masterplan, we have mounted 7 publicity campaigns to generate greater awareness, not only among the people with disabilities, the general population, but also among the government bodies and all the major funders and stakeholders that we can see in each country. We were able to reach out to a lot of these people to make them better aware of the 76 action points that has been formulated, because at the end of the day, the whole ASEAN Enabling Master Plan is basically a blueprint in which we can mainstream the rights of people with disabilities in this region, right? And I think one of these approach that we are developing is how can each country takes ownership of this, of how these recommendations and action points are being implemented in our own countries. And what I can see very clearly, 3 very distinct subjects are always at the back of everybody's mind. And number one, especially during the present COVID pandemic, access to information, access to health issues. These are the topmost areas in which we have to deal with. Secondly, we deal with things like education. Thirdly, things like employment, which is basically the bread and butter issues that every person face, whether you have a disability or not. And fourthly, perhaps on lesser scale, is gender issues, right? Women with disability issues. So which I feel are some of the main focus which kind of common thread that flows among all the 10 ASEAN countries. And I think when we knock down, all these issues, we would have at least some semblance of what inclusive ASEAN community will be. It's all about. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lim. How about Miss Jennifer? Do you have any comment on that? How? Yeah, I think it's very very true that we don't want the policy is just the policy without any further implementation. My question to you would be how the the Organization of Persons with Disability in the Philippines advocate for the implementation of the policy, especially because now the 10 ASEAN countries already ratified the Convention on the Right of Persons with Disability, and now we have the ASEAN Enabling Masterplan 2025 as well. Miss Jennifer.
Yeah, I think Paul Foundation being the partner of IPES agenda as OPD in the implementation, or I mean in the advocacy of the implementation of the master plan in the Philippines. I think the thing that the strategy that Paul Foundation did was related to the social media campaign, because as I mentioned earlier, the awareness campaign that we had conducted last December has influenced the government, particularly the National Council on Disability Affairs, the Department of Labor and Employment, the Commission on Human Rights, and even the representative of the SOMSWAD. We were able to engage with them, and currently we still have ongoing communication or engagement with them, especially that this year will be the midterm monitoring and evaluation of the implementation of the master plan. In relation to the question a while ago, it's true that the other regions are very advanced in advocating for the rights or mainstreaming the rights of persons with disabilities. But I think the ASEAN region is also doing its best effort to really realize the mainstreaming of the rights of persons with disabilities. The master plan, the document itself, is a manifestation of these efforts, wherein if we really, as individuals, as organizations, as CSOs, we will unite, I think it would not be, we can really achieve our goal, that is to really mainstream and include the persons with disabilities in all endeavors in our society. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Jennifer. Before we come to the, I think we know somebody raised hand, but I would like to go to Mr. Wong because I know that NCBM has a lot of experience in accompanying the government to implement certain policy. Mr. Wong, what kind of strategy you use to ensure that the policy will be implemented?
Okay, recognition of rights of persons with disabilities come quite late in ASEAN region. I believe we only managed to get all ASEAN countries to ratify CRPD probably just 1 or 2 years before we managed to get the master plan, ASEAN Enabling Masterplan. So it is not difficult to compare the region with European Union because they started much earlier. And I believe there are a lot of, not only governments, a lot of persons with disabilities are still quite probably do not understand or embrace the rights-based approach. Probably there are a lot of people are still, they still like the charity model, you know. So the master plan is the first attempt that we try to mainstream rights of persons with disabilities. And a lot of issues I already saw in the chat, a lot of issues that that you all are asking is actually already covered in the 76 action points. Okay. And what we need to do, as we know, this year is the midterm review. We need to get involved in the review. We need to remind our government that they have already signed, and there are 76 action points. Where are we at this moment of time? You know, so this is important for us. Let us all participate. Let us all participate in the review and make our voices heard, so that our government will be more serious in implementing the remaining issues which probably have not been addressed. Different governments are at different levels of implementing the master plan. So we must participate and we must make our voices heard, so that by 2025, hopefully, all the action points that are listed in the master plan will be or have been fulfilled by ASEAN member states. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Wong, and I'm really sure that each country in the world has their own challenges, in implementing the disability right. But I think the trainings for the organization of person with disability has, teach us how to, adjust our advocacy with the situation or the context of the country as well. And thanks for Kevin as well to give us some insight that, the thing is that whatever the challenges is there, the OPDs should be ready to be part of the advocacy or to be part of the effort for mainstreaming the disability right in their life, as well as in the country as well. So okay, so I will ask my colleague Tika to take some of the question, or we need to move to the raise hand first, Tika.
There are two more questions in the chat box, Bang.
Okay.
The first one is from Yunwa San. The question is, how are poverty and disabilities issues addressed in the OPD advocacy? And what efforts are in progress to create mutual support among ASEAN OPDs for working more effectively to encourage government to the accession of the Marrakesh VIP Treaty?
Okay. I think I will ask Mr. Wong to answer this question first, with regards to the Marrakesh Treaty. I think Mr. Wong can also bring his experience on advocating this one, and also because it's also because the Marrakesh Treaty is also one of the action points that written under the in the master plan, how the country should implement the Marrakesh Treaty. And the other question is how the training or the advocacy of the OPDs has also addressed the poverty or or any kind of disability issue in the country. Mr. Wong?
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Yunwa, for the question. I believe at present there are quite a number of ASEAN countries has already acceded to Marrakesh, and hopefully Malaysia will be coming soon this year. There are 3 or 4 more, or 4 or 5 more countries that have not yet acceded. Probably work has begun in their country towards this, and it is one of the action point in the Enabling Master Plan. So I think it is good that several countries have already ratified. OPDs in countries that have not yet ratified can learn from countries that have already ratified. So actually in our training program, we have a lot of sharing sessions, and we will be able to encourage OPDs in each country to work towards certain issues that some other countries might believe that it is important for persons with disabilities. Of course, this comes to priorities, as there are 76 action points, so it's not easy to do all at once. So that's why I mentioned about the policy platform. We need to get OPDs to identify what are the priorities. Okay, with regard to poverty issues, is also the same thing. So what are the priorities of persons with disabilities in each country? Once we can identify that, then we can work towards getting the government to come up with solutions. As from my participation in many of our engagement and training sessions, many OPDs in ASEAN country believe that things like accessibility are priority, issues of education are priority, and issue of employment are also priority. So by working on the few priority areas first, you can advocate with your government, and your government will listen to you. And please always refer to your neighbors. You inform your government how the experience of your other ASEAN countries, how they solve these issues, and use those examples. If it works, if you feel that it will work in your country, you can mention them to your government. You can quote certain countries, and that will encourage your government to be able to do something about it, to improve the situation. Because I'm sure when we come to the review of the ASEAN Enabling Masterplan, all ASEAN member states wants to have high scores. So it is good to use examples of neighboring countries. Thank you.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Some technical problem. My internet connection was interrupted. Okay, so let me move to the next question to Mr. Lim. Mr. Lim, how we can foster the mutual collaboration among the OPDs in the ASEAN?
I think we need to provide platforms where we can share issues, and I think hopefully the ASEAN Disability Forum is one such platform where we can exchange ideas, share best practices, and talk about some of the more common issues that that concerns all of us in the region. And as already mentioned by Yunhua, things like poverty eradication, things like education, and we all know that one of the main principles of the ASEAN Charter is that we do not interfere in each other countries' development and policies and decision making. So each ASEAN country has its own level of development and priority areas. So what might be important for one country may not be that important for another country in ASEAN. So I think each to each its own. I think all of us within the ASEAN Disability Forum and all the OPDs that we represent, I think what we need to work up in is like, how can we actualize some of these concerns in the country that we represent, right? Like in Singapore, our priority is how can we work towards digitization and making it inclusive for people with disabilities. So we spend a lot of our resources in digital platforms and encouraging people with disability to have access to such digital platforms. So likewise, I think other countries would have their own priority areas and concerns. So I would say that I think ASEAN Disability Forum is in a very good position to offer this type of dialogue and sharing of ideas, and a kind of like a playground where OPDs can come in to share their ideas, to discuss certain issues that concern them. And of course, the only setback now because of the COVID is that we cannot meet face to face. But I think through digitization efforts like this Zoom platform, we are able to share our thoughts freely and then work on them respectively in our own countries. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lim. Okay, with the limited of time, I think we need to we want to give opportunities to the participant who already raised hand. Tika, can you help?
Yes, Manulang, maybe you can open the mic.
Thank you, Ms. Tika. Thank you, Mr. Tolhas. My name is Tri Manulang. I'm actually here assisting Ms. Dantirik Malia from Indonesia National Disabilities Commissions. And also we have Ms. Rahmita Harap here, member of the commission in here as well. I'm not going to ask questions or commenting on what you have shared today, which is very beneficial to us, but allow us to take this opportunity to introduce our commissions. Ibu Dantirik Malia was here before, but she was kicked out from the Zoom due to the heavy rain in her areas. So she was here actually. So this commission, the Indonesian National Disabilities Commission, is established in December 2021. So we are the brand new commission, and we are responsible for monitoring, evaluating, advocating the implementation of respect, protection, and fulfillment of the rights of persons with disabilities in Indonesia specifically. So therefore, it is such a great opportunity for us to attend this side event where we have learned a lot from the presentation from the panelists, and also through the discussions that we have known a lot of good practices to enhance the organization of persons with disabilities advocacy in Southeast Asia. So we are looking forward to expand our collaboration with the organization of persons with disabilities and other relevant stakeholders, both in Indonesia and also Southeast Asia, to improve this implementation of the respect, protection, and fulfillment of the rights of persons with disabilities. So again, thank you for the opportunity given to us at this moment. Back to you again, Mr. Tohas.
Thank you very much, Ms. Tri Manulang, and also congratulations for the KND National Commission on Person with Disability of Indonesia. Hope we can collaborate in the future as well for the implementation of the ASEAN Enabling Masterplan 2025. Okay, Tika, I think we still have one more raised hand from the participant.
Yes, Ms. Batma, please.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Tolhas, for allowing me to ask a question. Well, with regards to the ASEAN Enabling Master Plan, is there, I mean, we need to know if there are any good practices among our ASEAN countries whereby the monitoring and evaluation is effective. You know, ever since 2018 to now, and according to Mr. Wong, this year there's going to be a midterm review. So therefore, will the government engage and liaise with all the different OPDs or a focal point OPD? So is there any country who has got a focal point OPD which the government can liaise with in order to say, to say that, okay, this has been implemented, this has not been implemented, because I don't think out of the 76, even half can be implemented now. So the good results, the outcomes, what are the outcomes? So the monitoring and evaluation, and then in relation to engagement with the OPDs. So are there any examples from the countries who are participating? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. I think I will give this question to Pak Lim, Mr. Lim, can you answer the question, please?
Okay, I think the way that we've been dealing with this is this effort on monitoring the implementation of the 76 action points of the ASEAN Enabling Master Plan is actually coordinated by the ASEAN Secretariat, and they work through the three sectoral bodies that concerns people of all structure within ASEAN. Number one is the what we all know commonly as the ASEAN Economic Community, whereby all the various dealings on trade and industry and economic matters have been coordinated. Secondly is the political and security community, which deals with very key strategic issues that threatens the security and the survival of the various ASEAN countries. And then lastly is the pillar that concerns with the social matters, social welfare matters, or the social services matters and cultural matters of the ASEAN. And this is where quite a number of the 76 recommendations are anchored in. So what ASEC do, or ASEAN Secretariat do, is they work through the various sectoral bodies. And we all know that each country has its own, like for example, the ICHA group, the ASEC, the SOMSWAT group, and also the ACWC. So each countries have been represented there, and from the governments, and what they do is to be able to kind of have a benchmark to kind of give themselves a benchmark as to how far the recommendations are being implemented in each country. And then this is, of course, the midterm review. And by 2025, we will have a full report on how well the 76 action points are being implemented. Of course, our esteemed guest asked the question about the outcome. The desired outcome is actually mainstreaming the rights of people with disabilities in the ASEAN community. And as you and I know, some of these outcomes are actually graded. You know, it's not like an ultimate that you score 100% or whatever. So it's graded, and I think this is something that each countries have to present the report. And this, if I'm not wrong, the midterm report, the draft has already been written, and it's been considered by the various sectoral bodies, and it will be tabled for discussion and adoption by the head of government building meeting during the summit, usually held in November, October, end of the year. And then by 2025, then the main report will be tabled. So there's this continuing process whereby a lot of this data and benchmark statistics are being gathered. And I think Agenda and ADF is very privileged to be able to work with ASEAN Secretariat to come up with some metrics on how we can develop this graded approach on monitoring, the implementation of the 76 action points. So specifically to the question of, is there any good practice or models that we can look to? Presently, it has not been, we have not identified, because it is not dealt at a country level. It dealt with as a cross country level, across sectors. And I think this eventually will come out, I think, when we discuss the more specific points of the 76 action points in the ASEAN Enabling Masterplan. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Just to add to what Mr. Lim mentioned before, that this is also, I mean, the participation of organization of persons with disabilities in the ASEAN also very beneficial, as also mentioned by the ASEAN Enabling Masterplan 2035, that every monitoring and evaluation and also implementation of the master plan should be involved that an active participation of organization of persons with disabilities, and therefore Agenda also provide monitoring and evaluation training for the OPDs, because we really want to anticipate that at the country level, monitoring and evaluation can be conducted through the collaboration within the government and also the OPDs. So with the interest of time, I think I need to end this discussion. This is very wonderful and beneficial discussion, and I think just to give us some of the closing statement from us is that the capacity building activities is very important to enhance the capacity of the organization of persons with disability to continue their advocacy. The capacity building activities should be impacted will be influence the way organization of persons with disability can in doing their work, especially in the ASEAN region, since we are now advocating for the monitoring and evaluation and also implementation of the ASEAN Enabling Masterplan 2025. We learned a lot from the experience of from the NCBM and also Call Foundation and ASEAN Disability Forum. So let's together congratulate those three panelists for today. And I also like to thank committee and also all participants to participate in this event, and also special thanks to DFED and DRL, which already supported Agenda in conducting this side event of the GDS. So again, thank you very much for everyone for their participation, and hopefully we can still discuss further. I think all panelists will be ready to be engaged through their email or even social media. Yeah. And again, stay safe. Have a good evening. Have a good morning, and have good afternoon to all of you. And thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you, everybody.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank
Thank
you,
you.
everyone. Keep safe.
Thank you, Olen. Thank you.